No, shut up.
No.
Can you shut your mouth for a minute?
No.
Because I actually work in the ghetto. I see the people.
Do you know why they're in that
I
position?
see these people.
Do you understand the systematic and historical reason for why they're...
For those who don't know what is going on, this is a Gen Z, and she's calling out her own, I believe she's 19 to 20 years old, and she's calling out her own parents for being racist, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I believe now the world is now raising a generation of people who are now awoke, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, she's calling out her own parents of being racist, and you can even hear from the conversations how her own parents are so misplaced as far as racism is concerned, ladies and gentlemen. The father is saying what black people know is just being ghetto, and even in the conversation, believe it or not, they go ahead and call black people filthy animals. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there are some people who are still being very abusive towards black people. These people do not recognize that the only reason why a lot of black people are still stuck in the ghetto is because the systems have already set them up in such a way that it's going to be very hard for a black person to come out of that successfully. It's going to be very, very extremely very hard, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I don't want to talk so much. I want you to listen to this conversation between these parents and our own parents, between this Gen Z and our own parents, and then I'll be coming back to react after this.
See these people.
Do you understand the systematic and historical reason for why they're in that position?
They don't care. All they want to do is be ghetto. Yes, there's some that don't, and there's good people.
No.
Most of them just want to suck off the system or do something bad like drugs or gangs, and that's all they
have been oppressed. They have not been given the same opportunities you have had.
They do, and there's plenty of black people.
No, they don't, Dad. And you not recognizing that as an issue is the reason why it's still continuing today.
I see them all over. There's all kinds of successful people that are of color. It doesn't matter what color, brown, white.
But it's a lot harder for them to get to that position.
It doesn't matter. When they do, they're fine. But there's always filthy animals.
You're calling people of color black animals. You're calling them animals. Are you kidding me?
You didn't let me finish.
That's not okay. No matter what, that's not okay. No matter what, it's not okay. Racism is not okay. Why do you think that racism is okay?
I found this.
All right, here.
Oh, that's mine.
Billy, I'm gonna look at. No, I'm looking at statistics right now.
Your statistics they can be warped. Statistics can be warped. You want me to show you videos?
So
do you want me to show you videos of cops? I will do it.
Why is statistics wrong?
Because they can be warped. I'm not giving statistics right now. They can be warped. Personal experiences can't.
No, because this is actually putting it into play.
Do I need to show you a bunch of videos of cops attacking protesters? Peaceful protesters.
Listen to this. This is the number.
You mean I'm informed and educated?
You're not, though.
Yes, I am.
You're one-sided informed.
Yes.
Mom, I was watching political stuff and you said to turn that off because you don't want to hear about it. That means I am educated on it and you are not.
I'm sick of hearing it.
The fact that you can have that ignorance for the majority is bliss.
Okay.
Ignorance for the minority is destruction.
That are wrong. This is just pure wrong information out there.
Just give me the statistic.
In 2017, 457 white people were shot to death by the police in the United States.
Okay.
223 were black.
76% of the population is white. 13% is black.
I get that.
If they were being killed at the exact same rate by police officers, the rate of black people being killed would be 8.9. But it's not. It's 24%. The rate of white people being killed should be about where it is. So they're being killed at a higher rate. There is more white people, meaning that the amount of people killed by cops who are white would be higher.
The reaction of the person. I'm not saying
Because they're
I'm
tired.
not saying it's
They're tired
right.
of being treated
I'm
that
not
way.
saying it's right.
Good.
But if they started teaching them that this is the world that we live in, you don't want to be killed. Why do you think your friend's father taught him that?
His black son doesn't end up dead like Tamir Rice.
Because he doesn't want him to grow up with the chip on his shoulder that
He doesn't
no
want his
police...
black son to end up dead.
Exactly.
That's not okay. Why do you think that's okay?
Because...
Why is this something that you're okay with? Why is that a reality that you're okay with?
I'm okay with it.
But you are.
No, I'm not.
So stand against it. So stand against it. If you're not okay with it, so stand against
When I'll
it.
stand against it? When the black people in the ghetto stop carrying an illegal weapon. When the black people in the ghetto stop murdering each other.
I'll start caring about cops when they stop killing black people.
I'll start caring about black people when they stop killing cops.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, listening to this whole conversation, the only logical conclusion I can come up with is that racism is actually taught. Okay, and when I heard the mother bringing up the statistics about the killings of white people versus black people, this person does not actually realize that these same statistics that she's talking about, they can also be whooped. This person does not realize that there is something that is called systematic racism. These statistics that she keeps talking about, it is what we call systematic racism. It is there. The fact that it's hard for her to recognize as racism, it means that this is systematic. This is so hard. It is very hard to fight, ladies and gentlemen. But the most unfortunate thing from what I heard about this conversation is when the father called black people filthy animals. Can you imagine, in this modern day, someone still calls black people filthy animals? Someone still believes that the only reason why black people are still living in the ghetto is because they want to be in the ghetto. Ladies and gentlemen, there are still some people in this modern day who are still holding on to these wayward racism beliefs. This father clearly lacks wisdom and ability to internalize things. It had to take up for this child to come in and educate her own parents. She's a Gen Z, and Gen Z, they are really exposed. They are really exposed to civil education. They're exposed to social media. Definitely, they have seen, the multicultural. They have been exposed to a multicultural atmosphere, so they can see racism. They can sense racism when they see one. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad for this generation. So I'm even asking myself, or even the questions that people are asking themselves, if these are her parents, what about her own grandparents? Imagine the kind of hate that her own grandparents carried towards black people. Someone believes, or someone thinks, that the only reason why black people are living in the ghetto is because they want to be in the ghetto. That is so bad. That is so bad. That is so bad. This is teaching people how to hate another human being. Ladies and gentlemen, these her parents does not recognize that the only reason why black people are living in those ghettos is because they have been fixed up by the system. They are not running the same race with their own counterparts. It's like when you pick a fish and when you pick a cheetah, they run and you make them run on the road. Definitely a cheetah will win. That is what I call inequality, ladies and gentlemen. That is what is happening right now. You pick a shark and you pick a cheetah, and you make them race in the same road in a land. That is unfair. That is what they are doing to the black people, ladies and gentlemen. They have made it so impossible, almost impossible for black people to excel. If a black people happens to excel, this person, it means this person has passed through a lot of problems for them to excel, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm so happy for this girl. She's rising up against these kind of beliefs. It is important that people make this world a better place, away from all this hate, away from all this discrimination. ladies and gentlemen. People should learn to love one another regardless of this kind of hate. This is so bad. You're calling black people filthy animals. Calling black people filthy animals in this day and age. And there are people, as you speak right now, they still think or they still believe that racism does not exist, even after listening to this conversation. If you still believe or think that racism does not exist, even after listening to this conversation, you'll have a problem.
In the mountains of North Carolina, I was taught racism. From as young as I can remember, I was told black people are violent. Black people are lazy. Black people are not as smart as white people.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, anyone who will listen to this gentleman conversation will end up saying that he is lying. But after listening to the first conversation of these racist parents, the one that I have just shared, then, that is now a real life example, ladies and gentlemen, that racism is taught, that that they were taught that black people are violent. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so much glad that I have the first clip that I have shared, and the first clip that I have shared is actually supporting his sentiments on what he's just saying here, ladies and gentlemen. If you listen to him for the first time, you said, this is just stories, but it's actually happening. It is actually happening. There are some people who believe that the only reason why black people are living in the ghetto is because they all want to be in the ghetto, ladies and gentlemen.
I remember my dad told me that black people are too lazy to work, and so they depend on welfare to live, and they sell drugs.
A real life example that racism and hate is actually taught, ladies and gentlemen. Here is a parent selling the same drugs, a parent selling drugs, a parent accusing black people of just being drug peddlers, while he himself is also selling the same drugs that he's accusing black people of engaging in. Here is a real life example of a parent teaching his kids on hate and racism, ladies and gentlemen.
10 minutes after my dad said that to me, a man knocked on the door. I let him in. He handed my dad some money. My dad weighed out some marijuana and a few pills and handed it to that gentleman. And then we went to the store to buy some groceries. We didn't buy groceries with the money that man just handed my father. It was little yellow, blue, and green food coupons. So my dad is trying to teach me that black people are drug dealers on welfare, while my dad was selling drugs out the living room, living on welfare.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the world that we are living in is anti-black. Clearly is anti-black. It is anti-black. It is so unfortunate. Someone is calling black people, these black people are drug dealers. Black people are drug peddlers, while he himself is selling drugs in his own house. What kind of hate is that, ladies and gentlemen? What kind of hate? Why will someone be so hateful to that level? This is someone who will just, I hear stories. I hear so many horror stories whereby black people will just walk in the streets and someone will just come in with a gun and shoot you for nothing, just because you're black. I'm now starting to believe this kind of stories, ladies and gentlemen, because these are horror stories. You're accusing black people of drug peddlers, while you yourself, you're selling, you're practicing, or you're doing the same business that you're accusing black people of engaging in. That is the most disgusting thing. It's quite bad. It is so bad. You yourself, you're living in the ghetto. But at the same time, you're saying, black people are living in the ghetto because they want to be poor, because they are lazy, because they just want to be in the ghetto. What kind of hate is that you're trying to spread out to your own children? But I'm so glad that, slowly by slowly, a lot of people are awakening to this kind of hate, ladies and gentlemen.
The indoctrination begins at a very young age. We are taught without even knowing it, there are two Americas. Despite marijuana use with the black community and the white community at the same rate, the black community is arrested and convicted at a rate 3 times higher than white America. There are black Americans in prison right now serving 30 and 40-year sentences for marijuana, while corporations are becoming multi-billion-dollar businesses selling marijuana. There are 2 Americas. If a man broke in my house right now, and I shot that man in the back, albeit in my own house, I could not claim self-defense because I shot him in the back. But a police officer can shoot Jacob Blake in the back 7 times and still be at work. If that's okay with you, we are on different moral platforms. We are on different ethical existences if that's okay with you. There's 2 Americas. The America I grew up in says if you comply, everything will be okay. Well, for white America, that's true. But black America faces a very different reality. The use of force and the threat of the use of force is actually 4 times higher for police-initiated interactions. The America I grew up in will say, if you stop talking about racism, it'll go away. Well, for white America, that's true. Because as a white American, I don't have to think about my race. I'm not judged by my skin color as soon as a potential employer meets me. As soon as a loan officer meets me. As someone that's coming to appraise my home for sale, don't judge me by my skin color. As a white American, I can completely forget about my race and even racism, so long as nobody talks about it. So then in my world, it won't exist. Well, I've decided enough of that. I'm here to call white America to task. I'm here to tell white America it's time to stand the hell up. Beside our fellow human beings, beside our fellow citizens, it is time for white America to be part of the solution. I was raised by racists. I was taught how to be racist. So you can quit telling me that racism doesn't exist. You're a damn liar. I was raised in the belly of the beast. I was raised by racists, and now they hate me. I call that a glow up. I'm not here to speak for black